Aaron Spivak built a company with no college education, not much of a high school education, right?
Nope.
4 years later, sold it for 48 million, right? So that's like every entrepreneur's dream. I know there's a lot of trial and tribulations within there, but last night I attended his event. He has a huge high-level networking group, right? Is that how you describe it?
Yeah, I would say it's like, yeah, high growth community for high growth founders.
So just to describe this for you guys, I'm sitting there. I'm probably the smallest fish in there, and I'm sitting at a table with four or five other dudes who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, every single one of them. And I was not expecting that, and it was awesome. And everyone was super nice and kind. So you did a great job at vetting, but also just making sure that those people are cool to hang with. So you should definitely go check that out, Founders Club. But I want to get into the story, right? So obviously you just sold your company pretty recently, huge exit. What was the first dollar you made? How did you make your first dollar?
Like define a dollar. How much
First
is a dollar?
first dollar. Like, what was your first ever job or side hustle? And then what was your first dollar in entrepreneurship?
Well, I only ever had a job. I had one job, and it was like it was called Sport Check in Canada. So you guys would have like Dillard's, like a sports store.
Okay.
And I worked the hockey section. And I lasted about 2 weeks. And honestly, I did a great job. Just the manager didn't like me. We didn't get along. And I realized that like on really young age, I think I was like 16, that this wasn't my path. You know, I was there in the store, and I remember trying to like take they had these sales goals, and I would like take the sales team aside, say, listen, like our section is going to destroy. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And we would destroy, and the manager just didn't like it, I guess, for whatever reason. But that was like my first job. But I was lemonade stands, window cleaning company, driveway sealing. You know, I would import like fake Uggs and stuff on the internet and sell them at high school. Like I was always trying to create and do business. I mean, my biggest business in my youth was party buses. And when I was in high school, I realized that every principal's biggest fear was kids showing up to prom drunk on the bus because they're all underage. So I just went to every single principal, all the prom committees, and I said, hey, if you choose my bus, I'll make sure no one drinks on the bus. And within 2 years, we did 90% of the proms in the city until I got death threats by all the party bus companies, and my dad actually made me shut it down. But I always found a hole in the market, and I'm a big believer in just innovation through iteration. I hate just like I don't want to be the first person to invent something. I want to see something that's pretty good, and there's demand, and then I'll just make it better. And
Interesting.
That was my kind of motive from a young age.
Okay, interesting. Because one of my questions was going to be, how do you identify the best niche or what product to go into? I'm sure a lot of young guys out there, what do I sell? I want to sell something. I want to start a business. What do I pick?
Innovation through iteration. Find something that is connected to your why. So, I mean, we can go down a whole rabbit hole on how to find your why, but I think for anyone, if you want the cheat code, it's just literally go on YouTube. Simon Sinek has, I think, the most watched TED Talk of all time, where he draws the 3 circles and he puts the why in the middle. So watch it 10 times until you really can work with it to understand your why. And then you'll find your business that's connected to it. Because business is tough. You know this. You're getting pushed every single day. Things never really go your way. And then even when things do go your way, there's like you're looking over your shoulder because you know a tidal wave is about to come. And if you're not grounded in a really strong why, then the odds that you make it through those tough times over a long period of time is really unlikely. So I would say that's kind of like the first step. The second step is innovation through iteration. Find something that is otherwise quite popular, that there's demand for it, and then find how you can make it better. When you see that in the supplement space all day long, so many different types of proteins, so many different types of electrolytes, and they all do well within their niche, but you got to find your own iteration through it. For us, there was 300,000 searches on Google for the term weighted blanket. There's 2 guys selling what I thought was the worst weighted blanket of all time. It was a beanbag. You would turn it. It would sound like a rain stick was in your bed. Impossible to wash. It had plastic pellets. If someone got into it or moved it around too much, it would basically rip in your bed. And if your child or your dog ate those pellets, they would die. The whole thing was there was just no thought process, but they were making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I can actually make this sexy, easy to wash, look good on your bed, and make it, popular for everyone to want, and the rest was kind of history.
Interesting. So that aha moment, I want to go do weighted blankets, was that based out of touching and feeling the product yourself, or was that based off data? You're like, I see the numbers, I see that this is an opportunity, and then you look into it, or how did that first thing start?
It basically started because I started a cold pressed juice company when I was 18 in my mom's basement. And we had, from 18 to 22, we opened 4 locations. And I remember meeting a friend who kind of introduced me to the internet, ended up being my co-founder. I was explaining to him the business model. I would have to wait 6 to 8 months with my juice store, save up 300 grand of profits, and then take it and bet it all on another location. And I had to do that every single time. And then if that location didn't do well, it was like waste of time, waste of money. And it was like I lost 2 years of work. And I would explain to him, I'm so frustrated because I can only grow at this pace and I have to keep betting the farm. And he's like, well, why don't you just sell online to everyone? And I was like, what do you mean sell online to everyone? I need to open a location in that area, in that community in order to get that community. He's like, no, you can just sell online. And I realized after we did launch online and it was our best performing store, our online store, that I was limited because I could only ship juices and smoothies so far.
Oh, so you started with the juice company first?
Yeah.
Online. Okay, interesting.
And then I was like, we were doing like, 100K weeks. And I was like, wow. Like
With juice?
With juices, dude.
What was in it?
We just like, we're the only ones, even still till today, we're the only ones that do a non-HPP, non-pasteurized juice. Like anywhere you go, like Whole Foods, Joe and the Juice, like doesn't matter where you go, they put oils, they put preservatives, and there's not actual fresh juices. We make our juices every single day. So people can come, it's like your old, authentic, like in your house juice. That's what you're getting at Revita, which is why it's been around for 11 years. It's been profitable since
I didn't know
day
that
one.
you were still part of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I am a psychopath. So.
Hell yeah. And so then one day to the blankets, you're
I was
big
just
industry
like-
change. Most people stick in the same niche, same industry forever.
It kind of is, right? Like everything I do is situated in health and wellness, right? So like juices, smoothies, everything was, Whole Foods, all made fresh, no seed oils, no preservatives.
Products you'd use yourself.
Yeah, things I do use myself. And sleep is, as we know now, because now there's so much education and talk about sleep, but it's one of the most important things you could do to improve your health. And, I saw that. I saw 300,000 searches for weighted blankets. I saw this stat that 1 in 4 Americans were suffering from anxiety and stress and even more from insomnia. So clearly there was an uptick in people not being able to sleep because of what's going on in their life. And then I saw the statistics of a weighted blanket. And a weighted blanket is the idea of DTPS, which is deep touch pressure stimulation. It's small amounts of pressure all throughout your body at once. It's like a hug, right? When you get a hug from just like a really tight hug, you naturally reduce your cortisol, increase serotonin and melatonin. So that feeling kind of like takes over your body. We mimic that with the blanket. So we came out problem solution oriented, which is how I launch any product. I love problem solution. So, whether it's skincare, we fight acne, whether it's a supplement, we tackle hydration, or we tackle morning sickness, or we tackle the night out right before you go to bed. Like there's so many, it's all hydration. It's just packaged in a different way. So problem solution, you don't sleep, buy a Hush. That was our thing. And then we had a whole guarantee around it. And then after that, I was like, I can actually make the best product ever. And that's what we did. It became the most popular weighted blanket in the world.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And a lot of people speak very highly of it, so congrats. But what's the process? What was the process like for you in the early days of starting a new business in a new industry? So many people don't know where to start. Are you the type of person that talks to as many experts as you can to get good information, or do you just like fucking run off the little pier and jump into the deep water and hope that it's
I run off into I run out into the pier and I do jump off, but I'll say I'm a big believer, especially as a young guy. I was 21, 22, and I was still 29 for a couple of days, and I'm a big believer in going and jumping off, but don't jump off if you're a bad swimmer. And what I mean by that is take maximum risk, but avoid catastrophe.
Yeah.
And it's really tough to experience catastrophe at a really young age. Because like worst case, like even in your business or even in my business, even at our ages, if we lose it all tomorrow, you'll still be fine. You'll be able to when I dropped out of school, it was not cool. Okay. Now when people drop out of school, it's like, oh, what are you up to? Like, what are you going to do? Like there's like a little sense of
college dropout sounds lit.
It's kind of cool. When I dropped out, it was like, oh, you're an idiot. You're going to be a drug dealer. And like, I'll see you at Walmart, buddy. That's what it was. Okay. That was over 10 years ago. Now it's kind of cool. But I would always say to myself, I'm like, everyone's like, oh, what's your plan B? I said, well, plan B, I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm going to beg for a position. They're going to hire me as a cashier. This is before they got the automated stuff. I would have been fired. And I'll work for a year. I'll save up money and I'll start again.
Yeah.
It's just so simple.
Yeah.
Well, because I'll start again because I can keep doing this for 10 years and I'll get to where I want to be one way or another.
Eventually you will get it right.
Right, because I don't have my catastrophe window is very small unless I take some stupid loan or die. Like, right, when you have 4 kids and a wife and a mortgage and a house and all these things, your catastrophe window becomes a little bit bigger. You can't bet the farm.
Yeah.
So it is an advantage in your youth to go all in and just do things and just do things. I was just telling my brother this the other day. He's got, the cold plunge, cold plunge wellness company, and they're growing like insanely fast in a space that a lot of brands are actually dying. And he's got those limiting beliefs that we all do. We have these limiting beliefs and these imposter syndrome. And I was telling him, I said, absolute worst case scenario, for some reason, your 8-figure business evaporates overnight and you experience catastrophe. You're still 25. You have the experience of a 35-year-old because you built an 8-figure business. You've managed over 30 employees. You've figured out how to sell in multiple countries. Like, those skills are transferable and you're 25. So always just go and do. I think the most distracting thing that anyone your age or even my age can be doing is when I always do this. I say, 1, show me your calendar, and 2, show me your search history. Because if I see you on YouTube just binge watching people telling you what to do, then you're not doing anything. If you're not doing anything, just kick rocks. This isn't for you.
I completely agree. So, you were a little lucky, I would say, because you didn't have all of the brain rot. These days, there's so much motivation and there's so much. And it's like when you're a young guy, you don't know what to watch, actually. Except for Squid Talk, obviously. But so a big question I have is, how do you initially get customers in a space that you know nothing about? What was your strategy? Were you like, I think I heard you say one time you were individually going up to people and doing crazy amounts of customer reviews, like communicating with every single person, right?
Yeah. I remember, our first PO, I used to DJ every weekend to pay for rent and stuff. And then I would save some money, and I had $12,000 saved, and I remember we had to put it all up for our first PO because that's what you got to do, unfortunately. And my co-founder and I sit there and we're like, he's like, yo, what if we don't sell all this? Like, what are we going to do with all these blankets? I said, dude, trust me. I'll put them in the back of my car and I'll sell them. I will go to the corner and I will sell every single one of these things. And thank God it never came to that. But that was the mentality. I went to every single trade show. I called every single abandoned cart, which is my biggest pet peeve and biggest red flag for any entrepreneur, is pull up. I always do this. When someone says, how do I make more sales? I pull up your Shopify app, click the abandoned carts. Why haven't you called them? Oh, well, yeah, because you suck. That's it. You just suck. You're not serious. I would call them 40 times to the point where husbands would pick up, like, dude, if you call my wife one more time, I will come to your house. I said, well, then buy the blanket, brother, because she wants it. And sometimes they would. Yeah. Sometimes they would. So it's the willingness to just never to understand that every sale is important. Every customer is important. I would call every single customer, whether they abandoned the cart. I would call them after they buy it, after they purchased. I would call them a month after they purchased. And to the point where people are like, oh, it's easy to do in the beginning. No, I was doing 2,000 calls a month.
Where are you getting the phone numbers from?
From the Shopify. They have to plug it in, right? It's abandoned carts. I get their number. I get their email.
I thought you put your phone number in after, but I think you're right.
Either way, I get your number. Yeah, and then there's a tremendous amount of apps. Yeah, I can pull. You can use a revenue roll. You can use all these things, or you can just pull the information. I would call them, like, what's going on, brother? How we doing? I saw you checking out the blanket. What's holding you back? Well, price. Okay, so if I took care of the price, I would sell them on the phone. What about your friend? Do you have a friend that would also suffer from sleep? Actually, my buddy Chris also did. If your buddy Chris buys, I'll send you guys both pillows. Right? You guys think it's crazy, but that's what it took.
Yeah.
We went from 0 to 48 million with $4,000, just flipping it, buying the farm over and over and over again. Everyone's like, oh, well, how'd you do it? What was the hack? And I'm like, I just outworked most guys.
That's interesting. So, and obviously this is e-com, and I'm always trying to learn about e-com. I remember we were talking the other day, and we were talking about manufacturers, and you said, and this is something like learning curve, right? But I didn't know that, in China, if the Chinese in business think that they can lie to you, lie straight to your face, that is good business. I just tricked this, white guy into, doubling the price or whatever. Can you walk me through that story again? You said you had to fly over there and shake your manufacturer by the shoulders.
You remember that?
Because I want to hear about what does it take to scale that fast?
I view business very much like war. right? And you're fighting on multiple fronts at the same time. So you're fighting your margin all day long. You're fighting your margin because everything in the world wants to take your margin away from you. Everything, your ads, your staff, your fulfillment company, your customers are trying to refund. Everyone wants your margin from you. So you're fighting that front. You're fighting your competitors. They're out there, whether you believe it or not. Other people, they're buying other stuff, similar things from other people and not you. So you're fighting that. And then you're fighting the microeconomics of things, right? Sometimes things are with you and sometimes they're not. COVID was great for us. Everyone was at home and full of stress and anxiety, and we were solving that. So things help, some things take away. And the biggest advantage for a young brand is to fight for your margin. And why? Because you don't have the volumes yet, which is great. So your manufacturer's not so excited about you because they're getting POs 10 times your size every single day from other people. And no, whoever's listening, the solution is not to find a smaller manufacturer. It's a massive mistake. A smaller manufacturer won't be there for you when you need it. The big guys who have the capabilities to support you, that's the ones you want to make relationships with. And then the second thing is the less you understand that they're not your friend is a massive advantage up front. So I remember on our Kickstarter, I could share this now because I don't know the company. We used to pay $68 a blanket. We used to sell it for about, I think it was $269 when we launched.
What is that? That's like 75?
Yeah, I never, anything less than a 70-point margin, you just find a different product. You're just not going to be able to compete. It just doesn't work, unfortunately.
See, that's something I didn't know in the beginning. I had like a 60. That's a really useful piece.
60, red flag.
For any young entrepreneurs out there in the e-com space, if you can't get a 70% margin, more likely 75, 80, don't even try it.
Yeah,
it's not worth it. You're going to waste all of your
90.
time.
Like once you get 90, and you see that more in skincare and like smaller products, right? Like clothing, blankets, heavy to ship, right? It costs me $30 to ship. Tougher to do. But especially if you're sub 100, if you have sub 80% margin, sub $100 AOV, you're just walking dead. Yeah, you just can't, nothing you can do. But anyways, I used to pay $68, and I remember I'd be on the phone with my supplier when we were only ordering a couple hundred, half containers, and I'd be like, I know that you're making a fortune on me, and they have this famous line. I have no margin. No, I'm hardly making any money on you. Right? That's what they did. I'm like, I know it. And I remember we did a Kickstarter. We did $1.5 million in 30 days. It was a top 10 Canadian Kickstarter of all time. And I was like, I got this check, right? I got $1.5 million check, and I flew to China. And I got physical because I was like, you know what? I want this thing for $15. And they would start laughing, and they would spill the coffee on the floor, and they call you an idiot. And like I had my translator. My translator was like, they're talking shit, and I was like, well, like.
And this was a very new experience for you, by the way, right?
Yeah, the first time in China.
So you were
I was
just
24 years old.
So you were just like hoping, like, I'm just gonna throw a crazy low ball there and see if it works.
Yeah, I was just like, no, yeah, I was like, that's what I wanted to pay. I wanted to pay $15.
Like, how do I do this?
It was the math that worked for me, and we did a 23-hour meeting, and that's their vet move, by the way. When you go there, they'll do anything but talk business for the first like 15 hours of the day. Anything, they won't talk business. They'll talk everything else until you get so tired, and you're like, oh, you're kind of dying to jet lag, and then right when they notice you're about to fade, they go, all right, so let's talk about the PO, and you're like, but I already knew, like I knew, like. In my head, I was like a Jedi warrior, and I was like, I'm not leaving here without a $15 PO. And I went to multiple manufacturers, and I'd take pictures, like I'd take selfies with their competitors, and I would show them. I'd be like, Buddy's offering me for 15.
How did you know to do this?
Because that's my only, like, I didn't go to school. I didn't do, all I know is people.
Yeah.
Right. And emotion. I just know people. I know how people operate. I can tell when someone's operating out of ego. I can tell when they're operating out of desperation. I can tell when they're operating out of a place of lack. I grew up in a house with 5 boys. We all fight for attention with your parents is a normal thing. And I played hockey for 20 years, and you got to fight on your team. You got to fight the other team, and you got to fight your own team to get the ice time. It's all about understanding how people operate. And I knew that, like, I could throw out just names sometimes. I'd be like, oh, I went to go visit, Jimmy at in Ningbo, and I would say Jimmy, and I would pay attention to the boss, and the boss would be like, oh my God, he doesn't like him. And I'd go take a selfie with Jimmy, and I'd come back, and I'd be like, Jimmy's offering me $15, and he'd be like, no way, I know Jimmy, you can't afford that. They hate each other, right? And I'm like, really? Because look at this picture, and it's just me and Jimmy just, selfieing it. And he was like, all right, I'll come back. He comes back an hour later, he's like, we can do $18. And I was like, but you told me 68 was break even for you, so now I don't trust you. And we would just go, I would I got physical with them a couple of times. I'd have to I had to shake them because I went with that trip and I said, if I get $15,
that changes everything.
Yeah, it's $1 million in my pocket. Like, what a trip. I went 48 hours in China and made $1 million because I was willing to put it all on the line. And you have to. And don't let them sacrifice the quality either, right? Because that's what they'll do. Sometimes you save some money and then they crank you on the quality. So you got to make sure your QA is tight. Mine was. And I would always threaten to show up. That was my number one trick. I'd be like, oh, that you making my PO? Yeah, cool. I'm flying in on Thursday. I can't wait to see it on the production line. They'd be like, oh, but no. And I'm like, oh, but you said you were making it.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. So I was told recently by someone who does very well. They said, you need to go and convince these guys that you're going to be the next Lululemon, because if they believe you, if they see that that's what you're going to do, then they're going to give you better terms. They're going to give you better prices. But they were speaking about it in like a way of like, you need to create like such trust and a good relationship with them.
You do. Yeah, you do.
But you got to be
you need to know in the back of your mind that in a half a second, they'll never talk to you ever again. And vice versa, you probably wouldn't, in a half a second, you wouldn't talk to them ever again. I worked with our pillow manufacturer for 7 years, every day talking, every single day. We did a tremendous amount of pillow business with him. And when we sold out of the business, he sent me like a silk scarf that I never wore. It was the ugliest thing ever. And that was it. I haven't spoken to him ever again.
Wow.
He just works for the company now. Like, we were like best friends and happy birthday. And I remember my co-founder got married. He sent him a gift, like all this bullshit. But at the end of the day, when I wasn't the guy writing the checks anymore, he moved on.
Wow.
And I respect it because that's what it is. So don't forget that. But I think the point of convincing them that you are the next is a massive, massive point and should not be underlooked. I would, send them screenshots of emails from Costco saying Costco's about to buy 10 million. And all the reason I can't get this PO is because you're trying to charge me 18. Remember I said 15? Get me 15, I get you Costco. And they love Costco, and boom, next thing you know, like, we can do 16 and a half, but you said 18 was the lowest. What's going on, guys? Come on, give me 15.
Dude, they're fucking one of my manufacturers one time said, I make them for 13. I only make $1 off each one. I didn't order from her for 6 months. She goes, hey, Lucas, you haven't ordered. I go, well, I'm getting it from a new guy for 8.
Yeah.
She goes, I can do 8.
Yeah.
I go, I thought you said you make them for 13. She's like, no, they're a little cheaper now. I said, can you go lower? She goes, I make them for 7.
Yeah, it's never their fault.
Lie
right?
to your face.
It's
bro.
never their fault. It's always the fabric
I run a
price.
family business.
Yeah, fabrics are textiles are more expensive, or staff, or this. Yeah, so it's a war zone. It is, and you got to be prepared for it. And I think to not be a savage in that space is a disadvantage to your business.
What do you do to constantly be learning? Like, always be getting the newest, best info, whether it's marketing tactics, supply chain, or like, what is your method for always receiving the new info? Is it books, podcasts, Reddit, X? What is it?
Honestly, it's other people. So people are everything. I post on LinkedIn. I make content. I try to share as much as I can. But as you know about the content game, you can only go so deep because then people just lose you.
Yeah.
It's one of the main reasons we started the Founders Club, which is the opportunity for you to be in a group with hundreds of other incredible people, founders, entrepreneurs, like-minded individuals who are doing what you're doing, either at a high level, similar level, or they have a different tactic than you that's working. And in a safe space where we can talk and say vulnerable things that isn't going to get blasted on the internet. And I can just like hack into anything, like from a business idea to an influencer program to a manufacturer. This morning, actually, I saw someone wrote in the Slack, they wanted a co-packer in Texas because their co-packer burned down in LA.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure you can go online and figure it out. And then Fata, actually, who you met yesterday, was like, oh, I have the co-packer for you. And then
way better than a random
done deal. Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's the benefit of a vetted community, right? What you experienced kind of last night is you're at a table and you're with all these incredible people. When you meet someone for the first time, you kind of got to suss it out, right? You're like, is this guy the real deal? When you're in a vetted community, all that's out. You already know, like the fact that you're here means you're legit. Let's just get right into it. I'll be vulnerable with you. You can be vulnerable with me. We can save a tremendous amount of time. We can trust each other because we went through this vetting process, and so much more happens. Like the amount of times where it's like someone needs something and you can just get it instantly, it's the biggest competitive advantage of all time.
Yeah. I want to make a quick point for everyone watching. At this event last night, at the very end, once again, I was probably one of the smallest fish there. And at the end of the event, Aaron said, if anyone has an ask, you should stand up and say it. And no one stood up for a while. Like, I'm thinking like, fuck, I don't want to be that guy. And then I said, fuck it. I stood up. I said, hey, I'm building this brand. I'd love to get into some high-end gym, some retail. And the place that we were having the event at was sick gym, and the owner's like, done, shook my hand, we're good. So it's a good lesson, and don't feel like you're being extra to stand up and ask, and like have the courage to do that. So I appreciate you giving me that opportunity, by the way, and offering that. An important question I wanted to ask is, what do you think most early founders waste the most time on that's just absolutely unnecessary, or just whether it be money or time?
I would say it's indecision, the inability to make a critical decision. I also see early founders are terrible with money, specifically when you're young. I sold my business at 25 years old. I panicked and then like moved back into my mom's basement. I was like, I just went monk mode for like 6 months because I was like, oh my God, like what do I do? And the consulting I do, the young guys within the club, the young businesses I'm involved in, the inability to effectively read and leverage your P&L is disgusting, really. It's honestly horrible. And a lot of it is trapped up not in knowledge, right? I want to make a clear point. It's not that you don't know your numbers, is that there's so much ego and emotion when you have big numbers as a young guy that you don't know how to filter it and channel it into the right directions into your business. And I'm not even talking shit. I was that guy.
Yeah.
We made $1 million. I went and bought a freaking lake house. Looking back, I could have flipped that $1 million for an extra 10.
Yeah.
If I put it in and deployed it the right way. But I wanted to feel something. I was 24 making millions, and people were just ripping me because I was putting 16-hour days. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. I'd open the juice shop until 2 or 3. I would take like a 45-minute nap, and I would go 5 till 1 a.m. on Hush. So I would never sleep. I would just do these micro naps, 45 minutes to 90 minutes for an entire year. So I had no friends. I was like this weird guy. Also, like I just didn't look good. I was super underweight. I wasn't eating properly. I wouldn't recommend what I'm saying. I don't even think it has to be done that way anymore, but that's all I knew. And when it came time, when I finally made money, I needed to show it because people were like, this guy is what's wrong with him? And I felt the need to kind of stick my head out and be like, you know what, fuckers? I'm rich. So what about now? And that's a mistake I see pretty much every single young guy make. And when you realize that I've realized now that life is mega long, like I look back and I'm like, I've been in business for 13 years. I'm 29, it's crazy, 13 years. And I'm still mega young. I'm still feel like I'm just getting started. Not being an idiot with your money, understanding your P&L, and then connecting yourself to a long-term vision that doesn't involve showing what you have. And then on the flip side, I would say realizing, and what you kind of realized in the room yesterday, you ain't shit when you're young, no matter how much money you make, because there's always a guy right beside you that's doing like, you got a guy literally to the left of you for 4 9-figure exits, sold his company for $400 million 3 times, and was sitting there right beside you, just as curious, just as excited, with just as much energy as you.
Yeah.
And almost 20 years older than you. And I think for a young guy to realize that and be like, fuck, it's still war. Like he looks at you as war. And for you, or not you, but like for a young guy to go out there and do all this stupid shit with their success, all you're doing is proving the old guys right.
I have a lot of questions to ask on everything you just said there. But first of all, do you think you were working 16-hour days out of necessity, like the business needed it, or because you were just like, I want to move so fast, I want to get this done now? Like, does that make sense, that question right there?
Yeah, it does.
Because you can wait till tomorrow to answer those emails. You can push that meeting back.
Yeah.
You just want to go fast.
I was broke.
Yeah.
My family doesn't have any money. I wanted to make money to take care of my family. My dad suffered from a stroke. Who was like the main provider. My dad drove a truck for 25 years. I wanted to make enough money to take care of myself and take care of my family. So I didn't really feel like I had much time. And I joke, but like when I brought it up earlier, connecting to your why. My why was to take care of myself and my family for 7 years. I was willing to cut someone's head off. When people say why weighted blankets, I said, it could have been anything. Could have been phone cases. The worst news ever in 2017 when I launched my store for the phone cases guy would have been that I chose phone cases, because I would have destroyed them, because all of them wanted to flex. They wanted to buy Lambos. They wanted to go to Greece. They wanted to take out girls. I wanted to provide for my family, and I was a different type. You just didn't want me to choose whatever the hell you were selling. I was the worst competitor. I would find out where my competitors lived. I'd find out where they like to party. I would deconstruct their life. People ask, how'd you become the number one weighted blanket in the world with no funding? I never raised $1. I only started with $4,000. One is I lived mega below my means. I would DJ on the weekends to pay for my life. I never took $1 out of my company. We did $25 million a year. And I was still DJing bar mitzvahs, and people would make fun of me behind the decks. They'd be like, "Oh, this guy was on TV with Shark Tank with Dragon's Den. Oh, my business must not be doing well." And I'm like, "Fuckers, you have no idea who you're dealing with right now." Yeah. But it's all good, because my why is completely disconnected from some guy thinking something about me, and that version of myself was willing to do whatever it takes. And I didn't want to sleep. I didn't want to do anything else other than make money. I just wore every single hat. We had a 30-point margin, net margin. At $25 million a year, we went from 25 to 48 million overnight. I was on every single show. I was doing everything, and I knew that other people weren't willing to do it. I bought the #1 spot on Google because I reverse engineered every single one of my competitors' margin. I went to China. I saw their boxes in manufacturers, and I would know their pricing, and I would say, "Great, Jimmy over here or Chris over here." He loves to go to the club because I follow him on Instagram. He's ripping bottles. He's living life. Great. I know he needs to take home at least 10K because I know where he lives. Rent there is at least $4,500. Great. I'm going to take 0. I'm going to run up #1 on Google to the point where he can't afford to buy it anymore because he needs to live this life. And I'll own the #1 spot in 16 countries. And then over a matter of time, you keep searching weighted blanket. All you see is hush, 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 hush. Retailers are calling me. TV shows are calling me. Everyone wants to talk to us. We're the #1 weighted blanket in the world because, one, I knew my numbers, and two, most people like to take money off the table. Yeah, they just want to take money off the table. Like everyone loves to take money off the table. It's so fucking annoying. It's like, oh, you made 100K. Okay, I'm gonna take 25. You suck. Like you suck. Like I'll every dollar back in until you get your end goal.
I love that, and I love that you said that. But looking back on all that, because I think everyone makes mistakes and it's totally fine to have regrets, but would you have done it any differently, or no, you're like, that was how it needed to be until now?
It just needed to be. Me and my co-founder, we joke about this now, and he's like, we didn't have to work that hard. He says that sometimes. We could have done some other stuff. We could have took care of ourselves a little bit better, and I believe that in some way. We could have took care of ourselves better. I look pictures of me when I was 23. I look like 15 years older than I look now. I look like I was dying. So he says, like, his thing is we didn't have to do it the way we did it. And I believe that in hindsight, but if I go back to like what I was thinking back then, like, there was no other way.
Yeah.
I wanted to take over the world. We bought every single billboard. I remember walking into Patterson's office and saying, "I'm not leaving until you give me the entire billboard." They do all like the billboards out front. Like there's a lot of these billboard companies. I'm like, I have 100K here, guys. I want every billboard in Toronto. They're like, that's a $4 million buy. I'm like, I know, but we're gonna make it happen. It's gonna be special. And we ended up getting it for 120K. But same thing. The Habs, I sponsored the Habs right behind Carey Price on the Stanley Cup run. That's a $2.5 million buy. I got it for 140K.
What's your best advice for negotiation in deals like that? How do you make that happen? That's
emotion.
Most people immediately assume like it won't work.
It's the great power of storytelling, which you do really well. I think it's people don't buy things, right? No one buys things. We buy the magic. We buy the emotion. We buy the connection. We buy the storytelling. We've all heard of that story, and if not, you should ChatGPT it or whatever. When the guy flips a paper clip into like a house.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, well, how did he do it? It's like, well, he did it because he was an incredible storyteller. And he would tell the story of his mission, and he wants to get to a house, and people would make unfair trades for themselves just to be a part of that story.
And if you're young, people want to help you too. That being young, people think all the time like, oh, I'm young, like they're not gonna believe in me. I don't have the credibility. I don't have the relationships yet. That is your biggest asset. I think that is the biggest asset of all time. People want to help you. They're willing to give you a better price if you just ask, number one, and you tell a good enough story. I agree.
The good enough story, and yeah, I mean the older guys. I don't even know where I sit in that, but I'm a medium old. I would say, at least like within the club and stuff. Yeah, like young guys are what we chase. And when I was your age, and I remember like sitting down with guys like Gary Vee and all these guys, like I would think back, like, why am I even in this fucking room? And sometimes my like imposter syndrome would come out, and I would like look at them and be like, why are you doing this for me? You know, and they would always be like, "Oh, dude, your energy, like the youthfulness, like we want to be around it. Like you're gonna be a stud. Like they want to be early. You're like you're like an early stock pick.
Yeah,
that's literally what young guys are. Me and Fata actually joke about this. We're like, who's the stock picks right now that we need to like go and be around, because you can see it. And now, like, you know, again, 13 years in, and a lot of like the guys that bet on me early are like my friends now, and they would always like, you know, if I have like a win or we have something really successful. Yeah. They won't even like say congrats. They're like, yeah, dude, I knew this would happen like 10 years ago. I called it. Yeah, like that's like a big compliment I find as a young guy. Like in 10 years, if you grind it out and you have someone that's been there for a while and they go, I called it, that's like a cool thing, because you know, like that's what. And even when you go to acquire and you want to grow, like all guys want is youthfulness. Like the guy that bought our company, we were 25. I'm like, why are you buying a weighted blanket company? And he's like, I'm not buying the company, I'm buying you.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck yeah.
Personally, I think that storytelling, I think it's a talent. I don't think it's something you can develop. I think you can get better at it, but I think some people just have it, some people don't.
Yeah, well, what do you read think? The book Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, and
that was one of the reasons I started SquidHaus, actually. Yeah, and Little Black Stretchy Pants by Chip Wilson.
That's a great one. Yeah, and Chip's Canadian, but yeah, I mean, I think storytelling is everything. Yeah. Really, it's people just buy the magic, they buy the story. It's none of us like watching Jake Paul fight. It's not a good fight.
Yeah.
You know, but the freaking story, by the time the ding, ding, ding goes, you're like so bought in on this story. You need to see the finish, you know? So that's a prime example. Those guys are incredible storytellers. You know, people say they're incredible marketing. What is the difference between marketing and storytelling? They're both trying to create an emotion inside of you to take an action. It's the same thing.
So a question for you, you know, you're turning 30 tomorrow, right?
Monday, but yeah.
Monday, you're turning 30 in 2 days. You still have a lot you want to do, obviously, but you've done it, right? And you have the life that so many young guys look up to. You hear this question all the time, like, you know, time is the only thing you can't buy, obviously. If I could offer you the chance to go back to be my age right now and be 23, and you have all your experience, you have everything you've learned, but you don't have a fucking dollar, would you do it, or do you love your life right now? And
no, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't do it. Okay.
No, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Life gets better, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. My life sucked at 23, dude.
Yeah.
My life sucked. You know, I made a story the other day, and it was funny. One of the guys like that was a part of the group that bought our business, he said he saw my story and he's like, it's nice to see you back. And I've been putting in like a good like 12 to 15 hour days the last few weeks. You know, the Founders Club is growing so fast. I feel like that mind-body connection to it, and it feels good. It feels good to be, I said, back in the saddle. And he's like, I haven't seen this from you in a few years. And I was like, yeah, you know, that old version of me is dead. I don't think I can ever do the 18-hour days and micro naps. I don't ever want to do that again.
Yeah.
But it's what was required back then. Now I can softly do 12 to 16 hours and take over the world. I don't need the extra sauce. But no, I would not go back.
Yeah.
Fuck no. No.
It's crazy, and a lot of people with, oh, you're working too hard. It's not forever. It's to build a foundation, right? Like even last night, I'm like writing the questions and shit at like 1:30 in the morning last night, and our strategic advisor I'm staying with is like, dude, you got to get some sleep, bro.
No.
I'll sleep when I'm rich.
Yeah.
Right? So you can always make a
but even then, no, like again, like you won't. Like I love to work. I fucking building Founders Club. I consult. I'm involved in so many brands. I fucking love it, dude.
Yeah.
Like It's so much fun. I want to be in the game. I
It
played
is a game.
hockey,
It's a
but
video game.
I want to be.
It's a video
in
game, and
it.
you're the character, and
Yeah.
you're playing.
Exactly. So everyone's like, oh, one day, there is no one day. This is forever, dude. Like this is never gonna end. And yeah, like I mean, there's a part of you that thinks, oh, I've made it, but there's a part of me where I'm just like,
There's so much.
you
more
meet
to
some
do.
people out here in Miami, and I'm just like, fuck me, I gotta get going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you've said a couple times you keep your teams pretty lean, right? But obviously people, I would say, is the foundation of every business, obviously. Do you think values or skills are more important in new hires? And what's the first thing that you look for?
Ooh, it's a very good question. We were just talking about this last night. Values are critical in any relationship, whether it's an intimate relationship or a business relationship. You need to be aligned in what you believe in together in the vision. And it can get very murky when the values are not aligned because, like relationships, you only really see them come out in difficult times. And I would say the mistake that we make in our youth is we have the imposter syndrome that nobody smart wants to work with us, right? Like, how do I get a quality talent when I'm not even the quality talent yet? Like, I'm young, I'm figuring it out. And I would suggest for everyone to never settle. I've settled way too many times. It's been costly. It's been catastrophic at times. You are always one person away from the next level of growth in your business.
Yeah.
And to kind of fuck around with that and make like an easy hire. And this is the easy hire. Ready? Your buddy. Mistake right away. Your buddy's not that special. Okay? There's smarter guys out there. Let's find them. Or your buddy's buddy. Even worse. Because you're going to lose two friends when it doesn't work out. And it's always best to just go out there, be patient. You hear hire slow, fire fast. No, just be real clear on what you want, and the world will conspire to bring it to you and be aware of it, and then go and hire that person and be really, really intentional with those deals that you make. I've seen like hires like literally bankrupt companies. You make a deal, some guy's like, I want $100K, and you're like, all right, here you go, buddy, and like you wait like 2 months, and you're like stressing. You're like, I gotta make payroll. This guy's not doing shit. I call those people perennial ruggers. All they do is rug people. They sell you the dream, and then they take your money, and then you fire them. But by the time you fire them, they already took 10, 20, 30K from you. You do that 10 times in a year, you spend $300K because you're a lazy idiot. Instead, take your time, have a network, right? That's the idea of the Founders Club. You go, hey, I'm hiring a head of growth. You put it in the group. If someone says, I got a guy for you, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That's what's the last thing that person wants to do is send you a rugger. Because how does that make them look? So that's why you need a network. If there's a great book, it's called Who. And I forget who wrote it. It's a fantastic book, and it basically teaches you how to hire, how to implement. The systems are great. I live my whole life. I hire that way. I hired my assistants that way. I train my assistants on how to work within that structure. But to save you guys all the time, the number one way to hire someone is to actually call their references.
Yeah.
Actually get 5 references, 5, and call them and be like, rate this person out of 10. Would you hire them back? Why would you not hire them back? And you learn everything you got to learn. I tell people to do that with like their potential new girlfriends. Call their ex. Be like, yo, what do I need to know, brother?
Well, on that note, because I think we only got like 10 minutes left here,
Yeah.
so we'll get to it. But I think girls can be the best thing ever for your life, and it can also be devastating to you as a young guy.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many young guys. I think this is the way I look at it. I mean, the truth is, like, if you are more successful, if you're a more mature person, if you're more successful, like it's just how mating works. You're going to have more options. There's so many guys that all they want to do is just get laid at a young age, and you waste so much time and you waste so much potential, and you're wasting better options in the future. Sounds like you didn't really do much, fucking around while you were building your business,
No.
right? And
Unfortunately.
what are your thoughts on that? How do you do you feel like you're in a place in your life right now where you can accurately pick the right girl, or is that something you're still trying to figure out?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question. I think there's an energy component, and then I think there's a distraction component.
Yeah.
I think with the right girl, regardless of the age, you can build your business. And I mean, you're Jewish, I'm Jewish. We got the chais on. We believe that the women hold all the power, and with the right woman, you can take over the world. Are you going to find that woman at 21? I mean, it's possible. I don't know.
There was one guy last night right across from me, dude. Him and his wife had the coolest relationship ever. They built a multi-hundred-million-dollar
legendary
company.
relationship.
What was it?
Trivani, yeah,
Trivani. She had so much energy. She was so cool. I was like, fuck, how do I get one of those, dude? They met in college.
It's possible.
Yeah.
You see, they met in college, and so it's totally possible.
Yeah.
I think what you want to try your best to avoid is a relationship that does none of that for you.
Yeah.
That just is a blood-sucking relationship. It keeps you up at night. You got stress. You got anxiety. It's not supporting you. You don't have any mutual connection there. Like your relationship should empower you to want to take over the world. Should be there for you. Should, this is I think I see a lot in young guys. A lot of relationships are emasculating, and it's very dangerous to be a man in business and not be in your masculine. Right. And what you want is that beautiful polarity between you and your partner. But unfortunately, sometimes it's the inverse. And I don't have a better word. Others say your balls get cut off. And it's a dangerous man to be in the business world when someone strips that from you. So you want to make sure that you have the right relationship. And to your point, there's no rush. Yeah, I'm 30. Like, you're good, like. And one thing I will say, and I'm stealing this from Brad Lee, he said, you have no idea what it's like to be a 30, 35-year-old man because you're going to look the best you've ever looked. You're going to have more connections than you've ever had. You're going to have more money than you've ever had. And you're going to have more options than you've ever had. So don't be stressed. Don't be stressed about, I'm 25, I don't have a girlfriend, I'm 23. It's like, just if the right one comes your way, jump on it and enjoy it and have that incredible connection. But otherwise, focus on yourself.
If anything, it's like that's kind of your Super Bowl moment, that little period right there. And you should just practice as much as you can leading up to that to make sure you have the best Super Bowl performance.
Yeah. I love when I get into the Gen Z TikTok, and you see like a funny, like a relationship fighting and stuff. I always look at the comments and someone's like see you in the gym, It's like, I love that. It's like gym membership activated.
Yeah.
But it's true. And what they're really saying is like, just focus on yourself, you know, and everything else will kind of follow suit. You'll attract the right person.
I think that's one of the best trends that's happened on social media recently. I think that's overall huge net positive. But final topic, man. So, you did what every young entrepreneur wants, which is a huge exit at a really young age, right? And you've talked about this a ton on your platforms, on your socials. Like, it was one of the worst days of your life shortly after. So I'd love to hear about what that experience was like and how that led you into what you're spending a lot of your time on now, which is this epic club.
Yeah, I would say, like, we sold our company to a publicly traded company. We sold on a Friday, so post-market close. You sign. There's a couple.
What was that acquisition like? Sorry to cut you off.
Oh,
long,
dude.
lengthy. Did
it was
they
a
look
year
at
long.
everything?
I lost all my hair. I had to get a hair transplant. You're lonely. You have to, because in mind, you have to manage due diligence. You have to manage the opposing counsel. You have to manage the other side. So the due diligence is third party, because publicly traded companies to hire like PwC to come in and rip your eyes out. Then opposing counsel is just the best. So you got to fight the best lawyers in the game. Then you got to still maintain relationship with the person that's about to hand you a bunch of money. And then that's one part. Next part is you got to manage your company.
You got to keep it growing too.
You got to keep it growing.
You can't just let it go. You got to keep it growing so that they're
excited. And every week they go, "How's business?" And if it's not good, they get a little less excited about doing this deal. And so you're fighting like this year-long war to maintain everything, the story that you said. Because what happens in your first conversation, you say, "We're going to be this at the end of the year." I didn't know. We're still going to be talking at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Well, you said you were going to hit 50, but you're only trending to 48. How do you expect to get the last 2 million?" And I'm like, fuck, why did I say 50? I should have said 48.
So you think it's better to lowball?
You always lowball, yeah. I learned that the hard
and then
way.
You can come back and be like, you know what? At the last minute, probably you can come back. You know
over exceed.
You guys, I want 50 instead.
Yeah, there you go. I actually did do that. I increased it 2 million because of my hockey number. It was a different story, but I was always in that fight, and it was the worst year ever. You're not allowed to tell anyone. Just me and my co-founder, and you're fighting. Some days you think you're about to be rich. Some days you think the deal's over. It's a done deal. Like, there's so many texts I have between Leo and I saying, "Fuck this. We can build this on our own. Fuck this deal. It's over. It's not happening." Because so much shit blows up in your face. Business, you have a bad week. But yeah, we sold on a Friday, and you're not allowed to announce until the close of the next stock day, which was with a long weekend, so it was the Tuesday, the following day. So there was a 5-day period between Friday and Tuesday where I wasn't allowed to tell a soul. And I would say it was the loneliest 5 days of my life because I just had a monumental moment, a career defining moment. I was just by myself the entire time, to the point where I would just like cry in my room and be like, this sucks. Like this is not what I expected. And even like the moment we sold, I remember I was just with my co-founder, we were late at the office on Friday, and like, the CEO called us. He's like, congratulations, boys. Like, I look forward to the future, whatever. You hang up. It's like, draft fucking video. And
Yeah.
I look at it and we go like, good job. And we kind of just leave. And I remember calling him and saying, dude, that sucked. This whole thing fucking sucks. And I'll say the one point here to finish it off was, after a lot of like therapy and realizing why did it suck? It sucked because I felt the moment of selling my business every day for 4 years. And people think this was crazy, but every single day for 4 years, me and him would reenact what it was like to sell our business. We'd write fake emails to each other. We would walk in and be like, we're rich. They just haven't paid us yet. I had the picture of the guy that bought our business up in our office for years. I would put up billboards around his house. We were so intentional with the feeling. We would celebrate. We'd go out for dinner, be like, yo, let's go celebrate us selling our business. We were like...
This was leading up to it or after?
This was like $60K in sales.
Oh, wow.
Since day one, we knew. So by the time we actually sold the business, it was such a familiar feeling that it really sucked. Because people think, oh, you sold your business. It's like, dude, I didn't win the lottery, bro. Like, I've been working for this.
Yeah.
I didn't just fill out a ticket and like, whoa, money.
Yeah.
So there was no like dopamine rush that you expect, because I knew who we would sell to, how we would sell it, and I would went all in, and I would play, I would manifest every single day religiously. I would voice note my life after acquisition when I was dead broke, and I would play it in my ears every single night before I went to bed, because I knew the end of my story the second we started that book.
That's awesome. And then because of that lonely journey is what led you to Founders Club, right?
And then I was just like, post-exit, I'm like, it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to be alone. I found my M&A lawyer on a Google search. None of that needs to be the way for founders. Humans are designed to grow and evolve in communities. And why can't founders have a community that helps them to go to the next level? So we started the Founders Club for high growth founders. And people always say, this is a big thing. I always say, I don't know if I'm big enough yet to join the club. Well, the good thing is it's free to apply. Just go to foundersclubofficial.com. It's a 3-minute thing. Fill it out. And it's not only about the amount of money you make. It's who you are as a person. That's why we have a very strong vetting process. And we've got young guys who are up and coming in the club because they're a good person. And why not give them the vehicle to go in and build something? We had one guy go from 1 to 30 million in 1 year.
Nice.
Joining the club. And imagine I didn't let him in because he was just starting his business. Like, stupidest thing ever. The guy's a rock star.
And now you're doing content, which is great. And just to finish off here, like, we all grow up with that common expression, grind in silence. I don't know where the fuck that came from. Grind in silence. I think that's the biggest pile of steaming shit ever. Because even though like I'm entrepreneur first, every door that's been opened that I didn't even know existed has come from content. And so whether it's joining networking groups or showing up to fucking entrepreneur dinners or doing content, I think is the best one. You got to put yourself out there, because if no one knows about your story, how is anyone going to be able to help you?
Yeah, you said 2 words there that define the whole thing. It's just show up.
Yeah.
So that means in person, show up online, show up. Absolutely. And show up for the people that you care about. It just drives me insane. Like, Mike Fat is a great example. He flew in 4,500 miles because, like, we have a relationship. He's got single dad, kids at home. He has a million excuses not to be there. You show up and it changes your life. It changes the other people's life. So you show up online, you show up in person, you show up virtually. You be there for people and watch, things scale over time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, dude. Thank you for coming on. I'm going to link all of his stuff, obviously. You guys got to go check him out. He's going to do a little college commencement speech, right? Right after this? A graduation speech?
Commencement?
Commencement speech.
I didn't do college. I don't know this shit.
Well, yeah. Well, good luck on that, dude. Thank you.
Virtual commencement.
Thank you for coming on, bro. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.